Well, folks, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I will tell you briefly before we kind of go into the facts and case overview, how honored I am to do a deep dive discussion in Satch's verdict in Arkansas against Dominion Trucking Company, along with Philip Miller's help in not only focus grouping, but running the shadow jury. This is really exciting for me. Satch, I'll tell you, I saw you speak about 10 years ago at the Kentucky Justice Association, not that long after I'd become a lawyer. And to see someone who was somewhat close to my age doing what you were doing, it inspired me. And I'm really happy to have this opportunity. And then for those of you all that don't know, Philip Miller is probably one of the best teachers of cross-examination that I've ever seen. I played his DVD and CD on advanced deposition strategies every day in my car to and from work for a year. And I don't, to show you how long I've been doing that, I don't even have a CD player in my car anymore. But I was just listening to Philip and just trying to study over and over again. So everyone who's attending, I promise you, you are going to learn a lot, because I have learned more just studying and reading up on the materials they've given me than I do in mostly a couple weeks worth of work. So with that being said, do you guys want to briefly give an overview of this case, and we can kind of go from there?
Absolutely. Dan, Matt, thank you so much for letting Philip and I be a part of this. Just always honored and humbled an opportunity to share our experiences and what we've learned. Our goal is, if just one of you got one thing that could go benefit your next client or one of your current clients at your next trial, that would be a huge success to us. We also want to open up all questions today. We really are willing to share and do a deep dive into what we've experienced, pros and cons, how we were able to obtain this particular verdict, and throughout the entire process, not just the trial itself. This particular case is a fun case, and it's an interesting case because Philip and I worked it from the very beginning together. I mean, from the very beginning. It's not like we waited until we realized, oh my gosh, this case isn't going to settle, and then we got a jury consultant involved at the last second. No, we prepared it from for trial on its inception. I mean, I don't even know if we'd filed the case yet, Philip. I think we got you involved. We did the landmines, big brainstorm for 2 days. Philip flew into here. We got in our think tank room, and we put up all the pros and the cons up on the walls, figured out how we're going to overcome it. And then, Philip, you want to tell them a little bit about the virtual, because this was back in the pandemic. We did this virtual focus groups before we did discovery on this particular case.
Yeah, we sure did. In fact, we the first 2 days where we laid out the landmines and the possible rebuttals, we really anticipated all of the major defenses that we saw throughout the rest of the case. There were no surprises really during, I mean, there were surprises, but there's no major defense surprise during discovery or during trial that hadn't been anticipated really early on. But then we had to test that against, a population that actually would be in the box. And we did that. Of course, we did a Zoom group, which was like no big deal. But following that, because we wanted a larger sample and we wanted more data, we did a survey of about 100 people in southeastern Arkansas from multiple counties. We gave them a neutral narrative of the case. We asked them a bunch of rated questions: strongly agree, strongly disagree, fill in the blank, what would you like to know that you didn't know, what do you think the two strongest facts are? And those confirmed and really amplified what we had already worked out in the landmines and rebuttal section. So going into discovery, there is no question what the biggest problems were in the case. And there's really not much of a question about how we were going to rebut it. It hadn't happened yet, but it was all there.
So Old Dominion Trucking Company, over the years, they had just become numb to hauling hazardous material across our country, all 50 states, everywhere, thousands and thousands of miles. And over decades, Old Dominion had become to a point where they were ignoring the risks of what formic acid could do to the human body. And on this day, Old Dominion tractor trailers coming through our great state of Arkansas, and they get into an accident, and we call it an accident on purpose. Normally, we're going to call it a crash, right? But this is something we learned through our jury research. This is an accident. They get into an accident where the tractor and the trailer are on fire. 911 is called. Here come the first responders doing their job, their due diligence to protect and to save. State trooper rolls up. They stop 1,500 feet away. When they see a tractor trailer on fire, that's what they do. They get their binoculars out. What are they looking for? They're looking for placards on that tractor, aren't they? On that trailer. And they don't see any placards. There's no sign of hazardous material anywhere. So at that point, their protocols say they can move in. If they had seen any placards of hazardous material, they never would have gone in at all. Our clients, our 6 first responders never would have moved in. They didn't see any placards. First state trooper gets to the scene. Fortunately, the truck driver has gotten out of the vehicle and he's safe.
Mhm.
And they ask him, is there any hazardous material on board? And the truck driver says, no. Second police officer doesn't know the first officer asked. Second police officer on the scene goes up to the truck driver and says, is there any hazardous material on board? Truck driver says, no. Third state police officer on the scene calls Old Dominion Corporate and asks Old Dominion Corporate for the bills of lading. We need to know if there's any hazardous material on board. Crickets. They don't send anything. Old Dominion doesn't tell them what's on the trailer, doesn't send the bills of lading, and they requested them multiple times. Old Dominion Corporate Safety Department was on the phone with their driver within 8 minutes of the collision. On the phone with their driver within 8 minutes. The man of safety for this huge corporation sitting in front of his desktop computer with the bills of lading at his fingertips. He testified it could take him around 30, maybe 60 seconds to pull them up. And not once did he mention to the driver, bills of lading, hazardous material, nothing. Our clients go in and do their job and they clean up this scene. They protect the houses that are next to it. They get everybody out of there. They clean up this whole thing. And unfortunately, after 4 or 5 hours of working this, it just all of a sudden they can't breathe. It hits them and it starts to burn their airways and they back out at that time. And what we've now realized is there was formic acid on that trailer burning the whole time. And our guys were taking it in and it permanently burned their airways, singed them from the inside out. They have what's called RADS disease. And it's permanent. And what's that like? Well, that's kind of like if you were going to go up the stairs, but we put a clothespin on your nose and we put only a straw in your mouth. And you have to go upstairs and down. You can only breathe through that straw. That's what that's like for the rest of your life. And we're going to hear later on what that does to somebody. And for purposes of restitution and reparations, your verdict in this case was $75 million. That's what the jury thought was fair and just on this particular case. But how'd that happen? And that's what we're going to break down for you now. Are we ready to dive in, Matt?
Yes, sir. We'd love to hear more.
Can I share my screen? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Can you all see, Matt? Can you guys see the speed trial PowerPoint slide?
Yes.
Great. We're going to break down this verdict in this trial, and we're really focused on effectively and efficiently presenting the story. And I hope you all have listened to Joe Freed talk before. He is a superstar, phenomenal lawyer, a dear friend of mine and mentor of mine. And he's one of the first ones to ever teach me about the speed trial methodology. And you're going to see a lot of the things he has taught across the country that he implements and how he gets these unbelievable, awesome results in his trucking cases. And so I just want you to know that's kind of the angle we're coming at to share with you I want to say, in order to present a case where we put on 30 witnesses in 3.5 days, it takes extreme preparation. That's what it takes. And it's more work than the old way. And what do I mean by that? I don't know about you guys, but the way we used to try cases is, for example, the plaintiff, we put the plaintiff up on the stand and they might be up there for an hour or an hour and a half. And we would just kind of walk through a conversation of all the elements and background and who they were and what they've been through and how bad their pain was and what they're scared to death about the future. And then we really went into all the background of their family. And the plaintiff would be up there and it'd be this long conversation with them for an hour, hour and a half. I probably had clients on the stand 10 years ago for longer than that before. Well, what we know is that jurors have changed. It's not that necessarily that was bad then, but what we know is from many focus groups and jury simulations, that's not the way to do it today. What jurors want now is pop, 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 pop. And so in this particular case, our goal was that each plaintiff was on and off the stand in 20 minutes or less. Some of those we got off the stand in about 6 minutes, some about 8 minutes. Some of our critical, what I call key plaintiffs, did take about 20 minutes. They were longer. But in order to prepare a direct examination of a key plaintiff with severe permanent injuries, who also there's some liability culpability parts of their story, and you want to do it in 15 minutes, the preparation is so much harder than the old way, because we have to now focus and hone down our questions and our time. So then test it with our jury research and our focus groups, and then practice it with our clients so that it rolls and it pops. It's just about, I don't know, Philip, what do you, 4 times as much effort? It's just like a lot more effort.
Well, what happened, I think, as a practical matter is I would get a written outline of the witness's deposition, and it had already been vetted at least twice, sometimes 3 times. And then I would kind of go at it with a scalpel and try to cut out the stuff I thought we didn't need or was duplicative. I'd give it back, and then Satch would go at it and do another edit after that. So there was typically no less than 3 and as many as 5 edits on every direct examination.
Wow. Oh, and Satch, I don't know if you have an opportunity to view this, but your display settings, it's in presenter mode. I wanted to make sure that you know that.
I don't know how to fix that, man. Can you fix that?
It may be in the left-hand corner under display settings. It's just, we'll see your notes in the next slide. As long as that's okay with you, I just wanted to make sure that wasn't anything that you wanted to keep to yourself.
Well, I don't even know enough about it to, let me see if I can.
There we go.
There you go.
Success.
And something else, I didn't know if this was you guys doing this or not, but it is like closed captioning at the bottom as I talk.
I thought that was really neat. This is the first time I've ever seen real-time transcription. Is this something that you set up for all your presentations? It's amazing.
No, I didn't do it. I don't even know how it happened. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's go back and dive in here with some more. I just want everybody to know that I think the more we narrow the case down, it is more work, but it pays off significantly. And so Philip would time my direct examinations and my cross examinations on this trial. And as soon as I finished, he would message me and say, 6 minutes, too long. Several times we were under 10 minutes, and he critiqued me in a positive way. We have that great relationship. That was too long. You could have done it in 3 minutes. And I will tell you that we'll learn from the shadow jury. You'll learn more from Philip. And by the way, I don't like the word shadow jury. We call them trial observers. Shadow jury's got a different context, so we use the word trial observers, but just so you know what I'm talking about, because shadow jurors, I think everybody here will know what that means. So our trial observers, the shadow jury, that one of their number one witnesses in the case, Miss May, Theresa May, was on the stand less than 4 minutes, and we just got positive, unanimous feedback about the impact she had. She was so good, they wanted to hear from her again, didn't they, Philip?
You know, they really did. And it was interesting because that was a little bit of a surprise. She was just salt of the earth. Everybody liked her. And I couldn't anticipate that from reading a transcript of a deposition or a summary, but she was great. And the shadow jury absolutely confirmed that. And so it was an easy decision to use her again later on in the case.
Yeah. All right. If we've set a goal in our trial, we're going to do it as fast as possible. How does that work? Well, I will tell you that the only way, in my opinion, that it works is if you have the mentality, the philosophy, and the methodology in your depositions, that deposition is the trial. So rather than taking a discovery deposition and then having the trial, having the mindset that the first deposition in that case, whether it be 1 year or 2 years before the trial or 6 months before the trial, whenever it is, that deposition is the trial. The next deposition, that's the trial. And so this depositions are the trial, this new way of thinking, it'll change everything. Why? Well, we are looking at putting together a series of video clips. That's how we have to look at a deposition. My goal is to create a series of video clips that become the proof at trial. In order to do that, I've got to have the mindset, this deposition is the trial, so that I can ask the right questions with the right documents, exhibits, and visual aids to get that video clip. So it may take me 15 minutes on a certain subject, whether it be how dangerous is formic acid, or should you tell the truth to first responders, or should a trucking company be able to pull up bills of lading and get them to the state police quickly? Whatever that, it may take me 15 minutes in the deposition, but my goal is at the end of that 15 minutes of questioning, the last one, that I get a video clip that is 60 seconds or less. And that video clip can be played at opening statements, perhaps, maybe even jury selection, because we're doing a lot more visual aids in jury selection. It can be played if we're going to be calling that witness by video. We don't play videos anymore. It's not a movie. Instead, we do a PowerPoint presentation. It's video clip, video clip, video clip, and it's cadenced to a live cross-examination. So, or we're going to use it for cross-examination, which has been used for years. If we're going to cross-examine a live witness and we're going to impeach them, we're going to impeach them with that video clip. Another way we're going to use these video clips, and it's what I call positive repetition, is if there's the superstar video clip of the corporate representative, for example. I mean, it's the awesome testimony that is mad factor. Because it's a corporate representative, most jurisdictions that we try cases in, you can play that in opening statement. You play that awesome video clip in opening statement. Generally, the corporate rep is one of our first 3 witnesses in a trial. You play those critical video clips at that point. Then with the plaintiff's expert, if it's something you want to show again, and they relied upon this testimony, you can play critical video clips during your direct examination of your plaintiff's expert. Heaven forbid if the defense calls this guy again, which they often do, their corporate rep, and you get to cross-examine them and impeach them again with the video clip. I doubt you have to play that in closing. You've now played it 3 or 4 times. The jury's got it. Yeah. I just want to say that these video clips, we've got to get them at the deposition. And if our mentality is not, this is the trial, we're not going to get those video clips. And it's got to be pop, 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 concise, simple questions. And we got to have rhythm, da, 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 true, da, 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 true, da, 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 true. And this rhythm and cadence is something you've got to practice and work on. I hope it comes naturally for you. It did not come naturally for me. I had to learn it as an art and a skill. And what I've heard so many lawyers say, man, at trial, they've got cadence, they got rhythm. But you don't hear many people say in my depositions, I've got cadence, I've got rhythm. And that's what I'm asking you to do, is in your deposition, have that rhythm, have that cadence, so you get those hits, those video clips that we're going to need for trial. Now, yes, sir.
So just for younger lawyers and lawyers that aren't as experienced as you, when you're going into these depositions where you're trying to get these sound bites and establish these cadences, are you reading written questions, or do you have your outline pretty much memorized so that it's almost like you're at trial when you're asking these questions?
That's a great question, Matt. We are going to have our questions typed out in an organized outline, and we do our deposition outlines by chapter. Chapter 1 are general safety principles or rules or standards, whatever you want to call them. And we're going to go general first. And so tractor trailer companies must hire safe drivers, must have safe brakes, whatever those, must train, whatever your case is about. Section 2 or chapter 2 are going to be the specific facts of the case that relate to the safety violations. So chapter 3 is going to be the combination of the safety rule and the facts that violate them in an attempt to get the violation or reckless testimony. If you guys have ever seen me talk before, we're not talking about that today, but our philosophy is that going into these depositions, our trials, we want to set a goal. What are the 10 worst things this witness can say about their own case? What's the worst possible thing this witness could say? And you guys probably think about it. What's something really bad that the corporate rep could say about their own case? Well, we did it. We were wrong. Yeah, but what's better than that?
Yeah.
We're reckless. This is recklessness. Oh, but what's better than that? We should pay. What about what's better than that? We should tender limits. So we set these goals, and that's how we approach it. Then we develop these deposition outlines by written questions, and the goal or the targets at the top of the page. And then we lay bricks by simple questions that build a path down to the video clip or the hit on whatever that goal is. I hope that answers your question, Matt.
Yeah.
No,
Hey, Satch, we had a question about how do you get cadence, and I think Satch had just answered it. One is, too many times people think they can just seat of their pants ask questions in a deposition, and I guarantee if you do that, you're never going to develop cadence and any kind of rhythm in your questions. You have to write them out. They have to be fairly short. They have to be to the point. They have to be unambiguous. And if you have written, Cicero said eloquence comes from the written word, and it absolutely does. Write it out, and you'll be able to develop this kind of rhythm or cadence that Satch is talking about. But you can't do it from the seat of your pants.
sure.
I agree. That's the old Wild West days. And that's just not applicable today. So organization is key. And Niley, I hope I got your name right, Niley. I like that name. Unique like mine, Satch. You've got that question. And let me really tell you how I learned about cadence. I learned about cadence in auctioneering school. And I went down to Dallas, Texas to learn how to do auctioneering school because we have a charity auction team here and I'm the auctioneer. And I wanted to learn how to do this. And so I went down there and I didn't know anything about cadence. And they said, in order to be an auctioneer, you got to have cadence. And I'm like, well, how do you learn cadence? And what they had us do is pick our favorite song, listen to it, and then plug numbers in to the rhythm of the song. So for me, it was Johnny Cash, I've Been Everywhere, Man. And I hope you know that song, but I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. $5 bid now 10, $10 bid now 20, $20 bid now 25. And all of a sudden, we plugged in cadence. And I learned through that method what cadence means with words and rhythm. And so you asked for an example. On our cases that have bad brake cases, which unfortunately are too many of them on our tractor trailer cases, they have bad brakes. If my hit is tractor trailers must have safe brakes on every axle, that's what I want to get them to say. That's the video clip that I want. And that's in chapter 1. Chapter 2 would be there were 4 bad brakes on this rig, four axles. Chapter 3 of that hit, not together, is 4 bad brakes on a tractor trailer is reckless. Can't stop. So what is rhythm in that? My first question is going to be so simple that everyone in the room in the deposition is going to laugh. Brakes is our target, right? So I want to back that question up, or that series of questions up, to its simplest form. What I'm not going to do is, my first question on this section about brakes is not tractor trailer companies must have safe brakes at every axle because Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulation 371 points whatever says that you must have brakes on everyone. That's not our first question. We're going to go back to its simplest form, and it's going to be this, and you're going to get a little taste of this rhythm. Brakes, slow down, brakes, slow down and stop, brakes, every axle, brakes, slow down and stop at every axle, brakes, gotta have them, don't we? Brakes, how are you going to stop 72,000 pounds without them? Brakes. So you see how we just kind of have some rhythm there. And this is a really simple one. I like it though, whenever I say brakes, slow down and stop. I mean, everybody's laughing in the room. Like the witness and the defense lawyer will literally kind of chuckle. Well, they won't be chuckling in a minute when I get that witness to say that not having brakes on these axles was recklessness. And so, and we will get that done. So I hope I answered your question there on that, and you can practice it, but I encourage you to listen to Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, man, and then plug in your cadence. All right. This deposition's our trial. This mentality at trial, what are we going to have? Our exhibits organized. So therefore, at the deposition, what are we going to have? Our exhibits organized. It's not chaotic. It's pop, pop, pop with exhibits. What about our visual aids? Hey, you're going to hear from Philip and I, everything is visual. It's almost as if part of our methodology in the speed trial stuff is, if we don't need a visual aid for it or want a visual aid for it, then we probably need to cut it, don't we, Philip?
Yeah.
It's if there's a fact or a point in a witness and you don't think it's worthy of a visual aid, it's probably not worthy for the trial.